Hello there everyone. We're going to talk about the status, my view of the status of the Butcher Circus right now. Obviously you can have your own opinion, you can hear other people's, but I'm just going to kind of go over what I think they've done right with this DLC, what I maybe think they could have improved of, and where this kind of goes in all honesty. The first thing I want to say are the positives. I know when I'm doing videos, I'm usually complaining probably about my luck and RNG and the status of certain characters, but that's in the moment, so let's take some time to come back and actually reflect. I like the fact they pretty much kept all of the same skills. Yeah, I don't think they actually changed any of them. Now they changed what they do, but I believe most of the skills are pretty familiar with how they are in the regular campaign. So it's not like you were learning 18 characters over again, trying to figure out what they're trying to do, which is pretty cool. Now, some of them did change slightly, so what you thought they did in the campaign no longer do it, or have a worse accuracy, yada yada yada. But I also like the stress mechanic they added. Don't get me wrong, stress comps can ironically stress me out, and also obviously stress kill me in the game. And I don't mind stress comps. I think some are overpowered, and we'll talk about the one lineup that I think is just absolutely game breaking. We'll talk about why we maybe need a patch for that, or maybe another way we could do it and still keep the same characters. We'll talk about that soon. But yeah, so I think the characters are good. I like the theme. The Butcher Circus, it's a fun theme. They have some stuff. I don't really get why they have seasons, but it's whatever. The ranks really don't mean too much because we're going to talk about that as well. And I do like the fact they added a whole bunch of trinkets. It's not like story related, so if you played more of the campaign or did better in the campaign, you're going to be better than people in the circus. Now what I will say is you will be better than people in the circus because you've played more, because some of the trinkets near the top are really good, and I'm kind of weirded out by that. I get that incentivize you to play more, but you're really going to have to muddle through the early levels until you can get those really good hero trinkets, such as ones on the Antiquarium. The Vestal has some good ones, and the Crusader has a boss trinket that I think's like level 50 or something. So to get to those really good trinkets, you are actually going to have to put in a considerable amount of time, and I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like having items behind level walls, because you can be better than someone because you've played more, not because you are better. Now, not to say that the one trinket wins you the battle, but man, it can certainly open up higher stun chances, which obviously are great. It can open up higher kill death blow chances, which are obviously, you need death blow kill chances, and if you don't want to rely just on a bounty hunter combo with finish them, you would appreciate some of those that give you just that extra little edge. Now, I'm going to talk about the things, I'm going to try to say them as improvements. A lot of games fall into this error of they get the game out, and then they focus on everything else almost other than the actual gameplay. I believe Darkest Dungeon has fixed some of the decomp issues. I haven't had those in a while, which is great and everything, because nothing is more aggravating than being in an intense match and suddenly something popping up, oh, desync error, boop, opponent left. That's infuriating. I'm glad it would appear they completely fixed that, or at least it's so negligible I haven't had it happen to me really. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad they fixed that. However, I believe this came out almost 5 months ago, and I don't think we've seen a single patch based on how fighting goes. And what I mean by that is like the skills and stuff. I think that's deadly for multiplayer, and here's why. It's deadly because nothing changes. Now, you can argue, well, within the current meta, we'll call it, you can find new strats and people will try to find new things, and that's true. However, this game feels almost very, what I want to call it, rock paper scissors-esque. There's some comps out there that are very good, but even if you understand your comp really well, you go into a fight and you see the enemies line up and you just kind of groan because you're like, alright, well, if a couple of things don't break my way, like you're almost relying on RNG to work for you, you almost have to chalk it up as a failure. And I think that's really bad, and the reason why it becomes very rock paper scissors shoot-esque is because you have to pick your party before you see what your opponent's doing. You go into every fight essentially blind. Now, you can argue, well, you know the meta, you know Man-at-Arms is popular, you know whatever jesters are, you know that the Man-at-Arms, Antiquarium, Houndmaster, Crusader combo is something people really like. Well, if you prepare just for that, you might have a party that can demolish that, but if you only face that once out of every 3 fights, or even every other fight, you're not guaranteed to really win past 50% of your games, which is frustrating. And heck, even those fights you do prepare for, they could break against you and you could lose those. So you could be 50% at a average, if not below, and that's really frustrating. And what that also makes you do is only pick characters that are going to be countering, because you know that you can't really guess going in, so you just have to assume everyone you're going to face in the higher levels has just essentially built a cheese strategy. And I don't really like the Darkest Dungeon right now because of the amount of cheese strategies I run into, and there's about 2 I want to talk about that I've really seen that are huge issues. It's the Antiquarium, Man-at-Arms, Houndmaster, and either Crusader or Vestal. I've seen a bunch of iterations on that depending on how they want to go. But the problem with that is you can bolster, decreases stress, increases dodge, and then you have Antiquarium who can increase dodge, and then you have a Houndmaster who can guard, which increases dodge, and then you can, you know, add on a, a Crusader there for Bulwarker Light, which now increases protection, so even if you hit them, now you can't, and if they have Cry Havoc, they can remove the stress damage, and if they have the Trinket on, which lets them guard longer, the Houndmaster can literally get to 80 or 90 dodge, and then your average accuracy, even with the Battle Ballad, might be like 110, 120. You're talking a 25-30% chance to hit somebody, and if you do, who gives a rip, because it might be for 10 damage, or, you know, you might stress them out for 20, but then you Cry Havoc for like 20 off, and now you're back where you started. So, I think the high dodge strats, they're too stupid. Darkest Dungeon decimated the accuracies on everybody. There's some skills with like 80, 85 accuracy in here, and it just blows me away. I mean, that's almost a miss with no dodge on. It feels somewhat balanced if you didn't give trinkets that add 10 and 15 dodge. I mean, in the regular campaign, 10 and 15 dodge trinkets were given like right at the end, and they were almost necessary so you didn't get hit every time. Now they're like, hey, if you do this and add 1 dodge skill, you have like 55, 60 dodge, and the average hit percentage against you might be 40%. So I think that's an issue. Like I said, they obviously haven't patched it. We're going to patch it. It almost relies you to have a Battle Ballad or skills that will get you a debuff decrease dodge, but they have to hit first. And like I said, at 80, 90 dodge, even 130 accuracy is only a 50% chance. So I think there are some small fighting errors right now with how this game is, that it's a little rough. Another thing I want to talk about are DOTs. They just simply don't do enough when someone gets to death's door. You can really rack up DOTs quickly, and you could argue DOTs keep your HP low enough you can eventually get to somebody. But I would like to see them do just a little further, because I think certain characters who are heavy on DOT can sometimes just be somewhat put to the side, because it's like, yeah, you heavy DOT them, but whatever. If you give the person 4 HP, it's the same as them gaining 20 HP and still losing it all in the same turn. It doesn't really matter too hard how much HP they get, as long as they're off death's door. And I've seen the Flagellants do well in other party comps. They can be good, because obviously if you focus them, they lose. Yeah, whatever. They can be good. I don't want to talk about Flagellant. Well, Flagellant, whatever. They do have their places. They can be good, but I think they'd be so much better if the opponent lost just even a death blow percent chance resist. If it went from 75 and yet 13 go over, now it goes down to 62. I think that'd be awesome, because the death blow chance at 75% right now, you're either incentivized to just give everyone heart attacks, which, spoiler in this video, pretty much everyone who dies in this video, except for the finale target, dies of a heart attack. Well, I guess I did hit the one guy with the death blow chance. But I kill 3 out of 4 of his team with the death blow chance. Well, not that I have any real strong DOTs myself, but it's just so hard to actually physically death blow somebody, because you could hit someone for a 50 crit and add 1 HP, and it just doesn't matter. So raw damage at moments can feel almost like a hindrance, because if the opponent can get 1 HP back, it's game over. And I understand that's how it works exactly in the campaign, but this isn't the campaign. This is some side shoot PvP where, you know, you already changed the stress mechanics to work on heroes. You already changed some of the skills. Why couldn't you change how Death Blow works as well? Do I have something off the top of my head for that? Yeah, not necessarily. Maybe if someone doubles your remaining HP and damage, you then take a death blow chance on top of that, something like that. I don't know if that'd be too terribly hard to program or something, but it really takes too entirely long to kill somebody. Like right now I have 2 people down at death's door chance. Other than giving them heart attacks, it's going to be almost impossible to kill. And as you can see, with even a little protection, sometimes you're going to see me hit zeros on people, And so I can't even do a death blow chance against them because it's 0, just because there's a little bit of protection. So the protection can get annoying. There's just too much cheese right now, and I don't think sadly the programmers are going to come back to this game. I think they're full steam ahead on Darkest Dungeon 2. They just really wanted to get this out in the first one and see, what was up. So I feel kind of bad that this DLC is essentially left where it's at, because if you don't want to just man-at-arms bellow the whole time or go with like cheese comp strats the whole time, you almost get punished for creativity. Not to say there's not creative parties you can win with, but I think you do really severely hurt yourself if you start just kind of trying to go outside the box, being like, well, if I swap this character in here, this will be an interesting strat, and then it doesn't work. Such as the Plague Doctor. You're like, I really want to use the Plague Doctor. There might be a couple very rigid strats the Plague Doctor can work in, but for the most part, because there's so many pools and the DOTs don't do much, she doesn't do much. Now, she's a heavy stress damage dealer, don't get me wrong. However, she can't even really stay alive long enough or work long enough to probably make that effective sometimes. And also, really just raw damage hitters are also not very favored in this composition because of that thing too. I've seen good leper strats, they do work, but they're very far and few between. I don't fight many lepers because they're hard to incorporate. Highwaymen are honestly hit or miss. They have a strong riposte, which is like the only real reason why they're in there. Without the strong riposte, I don't think a highwayman would be very popular because he can only really do raw damage. He does have a stress skill, but I've seen a couple of stressed highwaymen and they don't work too well. So my overall thoughts for this is really, I think we just got to tweak some skills here and here, just make sure this character is balanced, maybe not put so many trinkets behind a level block and all that, and just really experiment. I know they're getting ready for Darkest Dungeon 2, but it feels very blah right now, and you just pick the same party comp over and over and over again if it works, because you're tired of losing, you're tired of going against other comps. If you haven't found the right creative edge yet, you're just tired of getting beat by the same parties. People just look up online and click the same 4 dang buttons or 5 buttons. It can be very mindless, and I'm not exactly a huge fan of that. So that's what I'm going to say. Creativity kind of gets sputtered out. There's some creative parties you lose to, but usually when you see me patch together a string of wins in this game, it's because I'm using the same party, and it's a 60, maybe 70% of the time I go at parties that aren't necessarily good against it or great. Now, if I go against a party that counters it, it's almost a surefire loss, and the party that usually counters it is, once again, Man-at-Arms, Antiquarium, Houndmaster, blah, 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 blah. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of the Butcher's Circus. I keep playing it just a little bit for fun stuff to put up videos, but I really wish they would have put out a minor gameplay patch just to kind of save me from this insanity. Thank you so much for watching.